Many traditions here at Province House. This is yet another, and that is the pages packing up the belongings after a session. Those things will go to the MLA's offices.
Right, and so what stood out from this session that's just wrapped, I think on a high point for the government was its Human Organ and Tissue Donation Act. It makes Nova Scotia the first jurisdiction in North America to have presumed consent for organ donation. I think you could argue that it was a missed opportunity for the government. At a time when all of that national attention was here, in the government's haste to get out of here, they passed the bill at supper time on a Friday, meaning almost nobody was watching, which means almost nobody saw what were some of the best speeches in this place in at least the last few years.
And another problematic issue for the government, of course, is the withdrawal or the shelving temporarily of their other marquee piece of legislation, the Biodiversity Act, another first of its kind in Canada piece of legislation. On the one side, you had environmentalists saying the language in that bill was too weak. On the other, you had landowners and foresters saying it was too tough. The minister's kind of taking a step back saying, let's have a look at it and see if it needs changes. No promises that there will be changes.
You know, the only other bill that really perhaps stood out to me the government passed this session was one we thought could be controversial coming into the session. In the end, it wasn't, and that's increased background checks for teachers in this province.
And it didn't lead to a lineup at law amendments of teachers or the union saying that they were against it. Of course, it would be hard to defend.
You know, the other thing, of course, that we watch for when we're down here during a session is the performance of the opposition. And a session is an interesting time for an opposition party because it gives them a chance to roll out ideas, road test ideas to see if any of them catch on. In the case of the NDP, we saw the key issues that they continue to go after: minimum wage, more social assistance, help for the environment.
The real bread and butter stuff that the NDP stand up for day in, day out.
Right. Whether or not it's catching on, I guess, remains to be seen, but they're very clearly on that path. It was a little less clear for the Tories where they were going and what was working.
We had them accusing the Justice Minister of interfering in the naming of a provincial court judge. That really didn't go very far. And then, of course, the Yarmouth Ferry, although they're continuing their lawsuit, it came up in question period, but you could tell that it was kind of losing steam as it went along.
Yeah, they came in here really with this idea of what is the government hiding and pushing that narrative, but they seem to abandon it very early. So they've either decided that's not working for them, or they're retooling that and they'll come back to it.
Speaking of retooling, we could have a much more retooled House when we get back, maybe up to 3 Conservatives looking to jump to the federal scene and run in that election. We know that Sackville-Cobequid, that by-election still hasn't happened yet. And then the Premier is talking about a cabinet shuffle this summer. So when we come back the next fall, there could be a whole bunch of new players in this House.